Okay, so hopefully everyone can see and hear me okay. If you have a problem, please feel free to go ahead and send a message to Myra or Sakshi. You should see their names there. Go ahead and send a message to them if you have a problem with anything, and they'll let me know. But everyone should be able to see and hear me, so welcome. And so as we go through our agenda, the first thing that we talked about was that you're going to get a very, very special gift for remaining until the end. When is the end? The end will be officially 12:15. However, I'm going to stop. We're going to be done with the main content at about 12 o'clock. About 12 o'clock, we're going to be done. And then I'll take another 15 minutes for questions and answers. You should have seen, and if you haven't seen it, then check your chat. You should have seen a message that encouraged you to post your questions in the question and answer box. Certainly you can do it in the chat box, but look for that question and answer box. If you're on a mobile device, depending on which device it is, it could be at the top or it could be at the bottom if you're on like a laptop or a desktop. Okay, so look for the question and answer box. Put your questions there. If you can't find it, then certainly use the chat. All right, so questions and answers will be at the end. However, if you have a pressing question, go ahead and feel free to ask it, and I'll try to get to it during this workshop. But I'm going to be engaging you and interacting with you throughout the workshop anyway, right? So it's not just going to be me here talking the whole time. But today, you and I are here to talk about how to overcome the fear of stuttering, right? That's what we're here to talk about. That is walking around and constantly thinking about and fearing, am I going to stutter? Am I going to get stuck? If I go to the store to order something, am I going to be able to order it? One thing that a lot of people talk to me about is going to get coffee where they have to give their name, right? Or when they're at a restaurant and they're going to order food, am I going to get stuck there? Making a phone call. So there's a lot of different places where people worry about, are they going to get stuck? In meetings, right? In meetings when you want to, or when you need to introduce yourself, or you have something to say, am I going to get stuck? Some people don't go back to school because they're worried about, well, I'm not going to be able to give presentations or participate. So this is something that can follow you and that can literally imprison you in your own mind, in your own head. You feel like you're imprisoned inside your own head. You got stuff you want to get out, but this fear of stuttering actually holds you back. It limits you from doing the things that you know you want to do, that you know you're capable of doing, right? So that's what we're going to talk about is really how to overcome that. Talk about how to overcome that. And I know exactly how that feels because for many, many years, I felt the same way. I felt like, in school, I remember having things that I wanted to say, and sometimes I would say it, sometimes I wouldn't say it because I was afraid. I remember as I got older, avoiding certain situations because I didn't want to have to introduce myself. Or in workshops, I used to hate this. In workshops, they would always go around and say, like in training workshops, they would always go around and say, okay, I want you to read this, and I'd like you to read that. And so there I'm sitting, counting, okay, what am I going to have to read? And just becoming really, really anxious, worrying about, anticipating that, hope I don't get stuck. And especially reading. If it's talking, it's not too bad, but if it's reading, man. So that anticipation can actually trigger stuttering. So I can remember that happening to me, but I can also remember a time where I felt free, where I didn't worry about that anymore. And I'm hoping that you're going to be able to get there too by applying some of the strategies that I'm going to be sharing with you today. And before we jump into that, in fact, before we answer this question or address this, there's the four main reasons, and there are more, right? But four main reasons why the fear of stuttering can actually trigger it. Before we do that, I want to ask you a question. So I want you just to take a minute or so, and you can type this into the chat box, right? In fact, I'd like for you to type this into the chat box. I want you to think about and answer this question. I came to this webinar so that I could learn how to what? I came to this webinar so that I could learn how to what? Now that's very important to me because I'd like to see why you came. Now you're probably saying, well, it's kind of stupid. I came because I want to learn how to overcome the fear of stuttering. Well, yes, that's true. But you're investing your time. People from all around the world, you're investing your time to be here today. And if you're not here today, I encourage you to be here next time, but you're investing your time to watch the video. And in doing that, you are saying that there's something important, right? Because your time is important. This hour is important to you. And it's on a Saturday. You're saying that you want to walk away with something, that there's a reason that you came here. There's something you want to get, something specific, something that drove you to register, to sign up, and to be here. What is that something? So don't necessarily just use my terminology, overcome the fear of stuttering. But what is it that you came here for? Type that into the chat box. Take just a minute. I'm going to take a look at some of your answers. This really does help. Whenever I used to do all day long retreats when I was a relationship coach, this will be one of the first questions I would ask. It's extremely helpful for me as a presenter, as a trainer, to know why people are there. It's also very helpful for you to get focused on exactly what you want to walk away with. So let me repeat that. Why did you come to this webinar? What do you want to walk away with? I came to this webinar because I wanted to learn how to what? Type that into the chat box. I'm going to give you just a minute. Okay. Meetings. All right. Say something in public. Develop a smooth speaking style. Very good, very good. Thank you all. Confident person all around, including your speech. Okay. Great, great. Thank you. So I want you to think about that now. Think about what you want to walk away with and keep that at the forefront of your mind as you're listening, because what will happen is you will find what you're looking for as you're listening and as you're watching. Your attention will be seeking, it'll be looking for the answers to your question, So the question that you have is, how can I, or I'd like to be able to, so how can I do this? You'll be looking for the answer if you know what the question is, okay? So be clear about the question, at least one question that you'd like to have answered, and look for that. And if I don't answer in this webinar, perhaps I'll answer it in another webinar, but if I may also be able to answer it in the question and answer. So think about that and look for those answers. Now let's talk about four main reasons that many people, when they have this fear of stuttering, it actually triggers stuttering. So one reason has to do with it causes you to be self-focused. It causes you to become more self-conscious, okay? So what happens is, as you are constantly worried about getting stuck and stuttering, you become more self-conscious. I want you to relate this, and there's been many, many studies on this. I want you to relate this to sports or to a musician. If that athlete starts worrying about, am I going to make this shot? Am I going to make this putt? And they just start worrying about that. In fact, if they start saying, not just am I going to make it, but I don't think I'm going to make it. I'm going to miss it. What do you think is going to happen to that person? They become overly self-conscious. When they become overly self-conscious, here's what begins to happen. Now listen, what begins to happen is they start consciously taking over behaviors and actions that should be unconscious, that should be automatic, right? So they've been training, they've been learning, they know how to play, they know how to shoot, they know how to play. But now all of a sudden, because they've become self-conscious, they all of a sudden start thinking about the mechanics of how to do that. So by becoming overly self-conscious, they actually mess up. They actually trigger what they call a choke. It was something that I heard about, oh my goodness, I wish I could remember the whole thing, but it was, how does some other animal cause a centipede to get stuck or something? I've got to look it up. But in other words, if you think about a centipede or a millipede with all those legs, when it starts to think about walking, it wouldn't be able to walk, right? It just has to do it automatically. Same thing with you and I. If we start to think about how we walk and how we do a lot of things, speech being one of them, we start to think about it, it actually interrupts the flow, it interrupts the process. So one of the first main reasons that people, looking for my black marker here, that people get stuck and that thinking about the fear of stuttering actually triggers it is because they become overly self-conscious. What's another reason? Another reason has to do with they focus on the very thing that they don't want to do. They begin to focus, right? They begin to focus on what they don't want. They begin to focus on exactly what they don't want. So here's an example, and you've heard this before, right? We've all heard this one before. I want you to think, I don't want you to think about a pink elephant. Don't think about a pink elephant. I don't want you to think about a pink elephant. Now, for those of you that may have heard this before, you might have been able to to shift your focus to something else. You say, okay, I know what this is. I'm going to think about something else. But for many of you, in order to not think about a pink elephant, or it could be anything, right? To not think about a pink elephant, what did you have to do? What did you have to do? Type that into the chat box. In order to not think about a pink elephant, what did you have to do first, for the most part? Type that into the chat box. I'm just going to give you a few seconds. Think of something else. Focus on something else. Imagine a pink elephant. Okay. Right. Actually, in order to not think about something, in order to divert your attention to something else, right, you had to hear what I said. You had to focus on what I said. Okay, he's saying don't think about a pink elephant. Well, what's a pink elephant? Okay, so I don't want to think about a pink elephant, which means I need to think about something else. But in order to not think about something, you have to know what the something is, right? You have to have an image of it, a concept or a sense of it in your mind in order to not think about it. Okay, I don't want to think about this, so what's the this? Okay, here's the this, let me think about that. So what happens is when you think about something that you don't want to do, that you don't want to think about, if you say, I don't want to stutter, I don't want to stutter, I hope I don't stutter, guess what you're going to think about? Guess what your brain begins to focus on? Stuttering. Exactly. The brain hears stuttering. It doesn't hear, I don't want to stutter, I hope I don't stutter. It hears and thinks and sees stuttering, especially if it has been imprinted in your memory, especially if you have a memory. Remember we talked about that last week. If you have a memory of stuttering, it goes back and pulls that memory out. So whenever you say, I don't want to think, it says, oh, we want to think about stuttering. And then that's exactly what you think about. So the second reason is that it actually focuses you on the very thing that you don't want to do, which actually causes you to stutter, right? What's the third one? A third one is that it triggers what we call the fight or flight response. The fight or flight response, right? You've heard of this before, probably. The flight or fight, or fight or flight, right? Fight or flight. And this response, without going into a whole lot of detail, is a response that we've brought down from our ancestors that protects us. So if you're walking across the street and a car is coming in and it's about to hit you, all of a sudden you spring into the fight or flight response mode. What that means is that your body springs into action like instantly. You get an adrenaline rush and you get out of the way. And if this has ever happened to you, if you've ever almost been in an accident, your heart is beating. You're like, oh my God, man. I mean, you can't believe how it feels or how it felt. So your body braces. All of a sudden, it closes off all your air so that it can stiffen your frame here. It can stiffen this part of your body, right? So that you can brace in order to run or in order to absorb an impact, right? It also shuts off, in a sense, your frontal lobe, your prefrontal cortex, which is the thinking, analytical brain. You don't have time to analyze. You got to act, right? You got to act. You got to do. You have to, well, should I get out of the way? I don't know. It doesn't look like it's moving that fast. Maybe it's not. No, your brain says you got to get out of the way. Same thing as if you're about to be like attacked or something. All of a sudden, you go into the fight or flight mode. What happens with many people, and I've actually seen it, I've experienced it, I've seen it, that when they have to go order coffee or they have to introduce themselves, they literally go into this fight or flight mode. Their body stiffens up, their air passages close off, they can't get any air, right? The Valsalva maneuver, you've probably heard of that. They tense up, they get stiff, and all of a sudden they become very anxious and they can't do anything. They freeze up, they can't speak. So what happens when you begin thinking about, like anticipating that you're going to stutter, you can go, not all the time, but you can go into this fight or flight mode. What's something else that can happen? Well, something else that can happen is you can go fast, right? You can begin to go fast. And what do I mean by this? What I mean is that when you're anticipating, say that you have a presentation or you have an interview or a meeting or something, right? And you want to be relaxed, you want to be concise, you want to speak with authority and confidence, but you've been anticipating that, oh, I hope I don't get stuck, I hope I don't stutter, I'm going to have to say this word and I always get stuck and I'm going to have to introduce myself. So you start thinking about that, thinking about it. All these things happen. And what often happens is you want to just hurry up and get it over with. You want to hurry up and get it. So you want to rush, you want to go fast, right? When you go fast, remember, some of you have heard me say in my programs, speed, what? Kills. Speed kills in driving and in speaking. If you speak too fast, it can kill your speech. It doesn't matter if you struggle with stuttering or not. If regular people speak fast sometimes, especially when they're a little anxious, if they start going fast, sometimes they start stumbling over their words. Not all the time, not all people, but a lot of people, when they just speak too fast, they start stumbling. You can't understand what they're saying. They're cutting off their words. They're not articulating, enunciating, and all those things from speaking too fast, okay? And if you mix a little bit of anxiousness in there, like a presentation, then people just don't understand what you're saying. So you start going fast. And these are some of the reasons we start going fast, right? Some of the reasons the fear of stuttering can actually trigger it, because you start going fast, and by going fast, you can't control your speech, and you start stuttering, okay? So 4 main reasons. You begin to focus on yourself too much. You begin to focus on exactly what you don't want to do, right? You trigger the fight or flight response, and you start to go fast. You want to hurry up and get through it. So let's talk now about some of the damage that this can do on your career, some of the damage that this can have on your career. The first thing that it can do is it can project to your peers, to your supervisors, that you have a lack of confidence, which may or may not be true. You might be very confident, might just be this freaking stuttering thing, right? Or you may struggle with self-confidence like we all do in certain areas, but it projects, it communicates a lack of confidence, right? So one of the things that happens here is, excuse the sirens, but they should be over soon, is a lack of confidence, right? A lack of confidence. It can project a lack of confidence. What else? It can project a lack of knowledge, right? Well, this person doesn't know, because you're in a meeting, you know the answer, or you have something that you want to say, you have some input, maybe your idea is even better than the people. I've heard people say, I have great ideas. Sometimes they're even better than the people that's sitting there, you know, my colleagues and my peers. I'm afraid to say it. So lack of confidence, it may project that you have a lack of knowledge, right? When it's not true. In fact, you may be just as smart, just as intelligent, maybe even smarter and more intelligent than some of the people that you're working with, but they wouldn't know it because of this fear of stuttering. A third one is that it may project a lack of expertise, right? A lack of expertise. Lack of expertise. So then the person thinks, well, this person is simply not capable, right? We don't see them taking on leadership, and we don't think that they have the knowledge, and we don't think that they have the expertise, because when you're holding yourself back and you're not articulating what you know, then they think that you don't have the expertise that you need to have, right? So lack of expertise, and we can even add competence, especially if it has something to do with speaking, right? Lack of expertise, competence. So this person does not speak well, right? They're using incorrect, inappropriate words. Why? Because they can't say this word, I can't say this word, so I gotta say a whole bunch of words, and I switch words around because I can't say what I really want to say, right? This person's incompetent, when it's absolutely not true, right? What's another one? Well, another one is you take on less leadership roles, right? You take on less leadership roles. And this means that you understand and you know that, hey, if I have to lead people and I have to have meetings with people and do presentations and so forth, then I'm not going to be able to do that. So I'm not going to even take on leadership roles. So by not taking on leadership roles, your leaders may say, okay, this person doesn't really have any ambition. They really don't want to move up, when you might really want to, right? So you're going to take on less leadership. You're going to not be seen as the leader that you can be. And many of you are already leaders, but could be better leaders. I've talked to people like that. They're already leaders, but they know they could be better. Now, a fifth one is that they're less likely to take on speaking opportunities. They're less likely to take on speaking opportunities, okay? So you might have plenty of opportunities. I'm just going to stand to the side here. You might have many opportunities to get out in front of people and to speak, to give presentations, to stand up and explain something, and you might shy away from those because of this fear of stuttering. So what does that do to your peer and your leaders, right, your supervisors' perception of you? It changes it, right? Oh, okay, this person never really wants to come to meetings on time because they keep missing the introduction part, or this person never wants to take opportunities to do presentations. So you're less likely to take on speaking opportunities, which can advance your career, right? Because of this fear of stuttering. So this can damage your career. There's some other things that it can do to damage your career, and that might be like, you may have chosen a career path because of one of these, like, okay, well, I'm not going to do that because that's going to require me to speak more. Or I really like to go back to school. I really like to start my own business. I really like to make these phone calls or do these presentations, but I'm not because of a fear of stuttering. Okay? So let's get to, I'm actually not going to give you one action. I'm going to give you 3 actions. But before I do, I want to show you the image that I had up a little earlier, and I want you to do something for me. So let me get that image up here, see if I can get this up. I'm going to share my screen with you. Give me just a moment. Okay. Hopefully you can see this image. All right. If your chat box is blocking it, just go ahead and close that down for now, but hopefully you can see this image. And I want you to look at this and think about it for just a moment. Tell me what this means to you and how you think it's related to how you can overcome this fear of stuttering. And when we talk about the fear of stuttering, what we're talking about is consistently, regularly anticipating that you're going to stutter. Listen to that. You're anticipating that you're going to stutter. And sometimes you do it consciously, like you actually think it, I know I'm going to get stuck. Or it's a sense. You don't even have to think it. It's just, you get a feeling like you know you're going to get stuck. You know you're going to stutter. So tell me what you think this has to do with that. This is a part of the solution that we're going to dig into. I'm actually going to give you 3 actions that you can take, 3 things that you can do. But look at this, take a minute, put into the chat box your thoughts about what this saying, it's a very well-known saying, what this saying has to do with anticipating and worrying and being anxious and being fearful of stuttering. I'll give you just a minute. Okay, so type into the chat box real quick what you think this saying has to do with the solution to overcoming the fear of stuttering. And for those of you that couldn't see the whiteboard, don't worry about it because I generally say what I'm writing on there, and you're going to get a replay, so you're going to be able to see it anyway, okay? So don't really worry too much about that. But type into the chat box just real quick what you think this saying has to do with the solution. I'm reading your comments right now. Our thoughts create our reality. This particular session will actually show you how to oh, okay, all right. That was a response. Our thoughts create our reality. Anyone else? Anyone else? What do you think this has to do with? I want you to think. I want you to think. Not just listen, but analyze this. Think about this. What does this have to do with the solution? So I'm going to read this. And it says, sow a thought, reap an action, or reap an act. Sow an action, reap a what? Reap a habit. So a habit, reap a character. So a character, reap a destiny. There's kind of a chain reaction. There's a sowing and reaping here. Got to start, okay, when you are speaking in public, if you used to be around someone you don't stutter as much, okay, got to start thinking about speaking fluently before I have to speak, okay, very good, very good. Let me just see, there was someone else. Changing your thoughts towards your speaking style will determine the destiny of your speaking style. Very good, very good, very good. Keep thinking about that. Let's dig in. I'm going to leave this up for just a moment, but you sow a thought and you reap an action. You sow a thought and you reap action. What does it mean to sow a thought? What that means is that whatever you think about, right, whatever you consciously think about, whatever you bring into your conscious attention, so you're sowing a thought. The more that you think about something, the more that you bring into your attention a particular subject or object or image or whatever it is, you bring it into your attention, you hold it there and you continue to bring that into your conscious attention, into your awareness. The more that you sow that, the more that you do it, you reap. That is, you bring forth, you cause to happen an act, something that you actually do. So as I think about something, if I think about being an excellent speaker, eventually I'm going to bring about the act of speaking in an excellent manner, right? And maybe it's only once, but if I keep thinking about it and I keep speaking in an excellent manner, just one time, right? One speech at a time, one conversation at a time, then it develops a habit. It turns into a habit of thinking and speaking well. And once you develop this habit, the habit develops a character. The character is who you really are. So then you believe, you know that you actually are an excellent speaker. And once you know that you're an excellent speaker, it determines your destiny, determines your career, determines how you can impact other people. But it all starts with what? It starts with a thought. Okay? So let's jump right into this. I'm going to give you 3 actions that you can actually do today. 3 actions. 1, hijack your train of thinking. Hijack your train of thinking. And what do I mean by this? What tends to happen is that we have trains of thinking, right? Trains of thinking that take us down certain pathways. Today, we're talking about anticipating or being afraid that we're going to stutter, right? So there's a train of thinking. I have this meeting coming, I have this interview, and all of a sudden now you start to think about, okay, I hope I don't, I better not, right? So that's a train of thinking. What I want you to do is to hijack. This is one time where it's good to be a hijacker. One time where it's good to be a hijacker. Hijack your train of thinking. When you hijack your train of thinking, I know you wonder, well, how do I do that? How do you hijack your train of thinking? What you do is you actually shift your focus, you shift your attention away from that train of thought to what you want to think about, to how you want to speak. Let me say that again. You gently but consistently shift that thought, those thoughts, away from what you don't want and towards what you do want. So let me give you a very specific example of that. Rather than thinking about the fact that I don't want to stutter, I can think about slowing down. Now, where did I get this from? Well, I got this from my own experience, from research, but my clients tell me, by telling themselves constantly, slow down, you don't have to rush, you can take your time, it immediately begins to relax them and smooth out their speech. So you hijack that train of thought that says, I hope I don't, I know I'm going to. You just gently but consistently shift it to just relax. You don't have to worry about it. You can take your time. I'll tell you something that my wife said, and she's here. We're talking about giving presentations. This applies to fear of public speaking as well as stuttering, right? Lots of people. I have a sister-in-law who told me the same thing, that when she has a presentation to do, she can't sleep, her stomach gets messed up, she just gets really, really anxious days before. And it's all because what you're anticipating, you're thinking about, I hope this doesn't happen, and I don't want to do this, and I hope, what are the people going to say? I hope I don't forget anything. I hope I don't look like, so you're anticipating. What happens is, my wife says, when she gets up, she tells herself sometimes, I don't give an F what they say or think. I'm just going to say what I need to say, right? So I don't give an up. Fill that in. I don't give a whatever. I don't care what they're going to say, what they think. I'm just going to do my job and do the best that I can. And when you do that, what you do is you're hijacking your train of thinking. Rather than thinking that, you're thinking something else. So one thing that you can do is you can tell yourself, I don't give a that, or I don't give a whatever. Another thing that you can do is focus on the way you want to speak. Let me extend my words more. Let me focus on finishing my words. Let me focus on my model. Let me focus on slowing down and relaxing. You hijack your train of thinking. How often do you have to do this? Every time. You have to do it consistently. Do it consistently. What else? What else? Second thing that you can do is you can reframe your train. Reframe your train of thinking. What do we mean by reframe? When we say reframe, and listen to these, okay? These are extremely powerful techniques that work. My clients use them. I've used them. Athletes use them. People, golf players, presidents, people use these techniques. They absolutely work. They're very well documented and researched, okay? Reframe your train of thinking. That is, you might be on the right train, but all of a sudden, you start just thinking, okay, I hope, and this happens, and the last time I did this. Now, I have someone who has a wedding speech he has to do today, and so people tend to think, okay, they're going to be looking at me, and I hope I don't get stuck. I said, this is what you do. You reframe that and say, man, I'm going to have an opportunity to practice my speech. I'm going to have an opportunity to impact people, because he's actually an excellent speaker. This is an opportunity to me. In fact, I'm looking forward to this. I'm excited about this opportunity. So rather than saying, I'm anxious, I'm nervous, I'm worried, I'm afraid, rather than thinking that, what you want to do is say, I'm excited, I'm looking forward to this. And someone says, well, Mike, that's just a bunch of, psychobabble and stuff. No. When you reframe something and you tell yourself you're excited, the feelings are very similar. When you're anxious or worried and when you're excited in a positive way, the feelings are very, very similar. So when you reframe your train of thinking to say, no, I'm not anxious, I'm excited about this, it makes all the difference in the world. So you reframe your train. Here's the third thing that you want to do. Third thing that you want to do. Now watch this. And this is something I've done for decades. You replace your thinking. You replace your thinking with audio listening. With audio listening. You replace your current thinking with audio listening. Let me tell you, and my wife can attest to this, I've spent thousands, maybe tens of thousands now, because I started back in the mid-90s. I am now 49 years old. I was in my 20s then. It's been over 20-some years. I've been listening to audio for a couple of decades now. Started out with audio cassettes, then they went to CDs and then MP3s. And I had libraries of audios. Now I have an account with Audible, which I highly recommend. And so I buy at least 1 or 2 audio books a month. So I'm constantly listening to audio, right? So sometimes if I feel down or if I want to think about something or learn something or focus on something, I have an audio for it. Something in business, something personal, I got an audio book for it. I got an audio program for it. I've spent thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars in audio training. So this is important because if you just stay in your own head with your own thoughts, it can take you down. It can take you down. You need to get input, external input that gives you a different perspective on whatever you're struggling with. So listen, you replace your current thinking, you replace it with audio, replace it with audio. So I advise you, develop a library of audiobooks. It'll be one of your most valuable resources. So 3 actions that you can take, not just one, 3 actions that you can take. Okay, you can hijack your train of thinking, right? Hijack your train of thinking by gently but consistently shifting your thoughts to the way you want to speak. Just slow down, extend your words, right? The athletes do the same thing, and it works. Number two, you can reframe your train of thinking. Instead of thinking, I'm anxious, I'm worried, and think, I'm excited, this is an opportunity. Trust me, this really works. Number three, you replace your thinking by consistently feeding your mind. Remember, we're talking about how to retrain your brain, right? That's the title of this entire series, ongoing. So retraining your brain. You retrain your brain by feeding your mind with new information, something new and different. If you want to create new memories, new thought patterns, new successful speaking memories, new successful speaking experiences, you got to do something different. New equals different. You got to take in some new information that's different than what you've been thinking. Does this make sense? Does this make sense? Three things, three actions that you can take. If you did just one of these things, just if you practiced just one of these things, what would eventually happen is you would begin to think, you would begin to worry and fear stuttering less and less and less until it diminished. It took me about 6 months of doing affirmations. I didn't mention affirmations. There's a few more things that you can do, affirmations, visualizations, and some other things. It took me about 6 months of doing that before, for the most part, I wasn't constantly anticipating that I would get stuck. There was one thing that I still anticipated, I was reading aloud. It took me a while to get over that. But what happened was, it took me 6 months of constantly doing affirmations and doing other things to get over this fear of stuttering. Now, some of you might be wondering, well, is there something else? Are there other thoughts that we can think to hijack our thinking, to gently and consistently move our thinking someplace else? Are there other things that we can do and think and say in the moment so that we can reframe our situations, like an interview or public speaking or a meeting? Are there other things that we can say? Are there audios that are specifically designed for people who struggle with their speech? The answer is yes. The answer is yes. There is a way, there are other resources. There are resources to help you with these things. But here's something else. You also want to be proactive. That means you don't just want to wait until the thoughts come to deal with them. There's a way for you to deal with them before they happen. You can be proactive, like a vaccination, right? You can actually create a new pattern, a new train of thinking so that the thoughts stop occurring in the first place, right? You don't just want to wait until they occur to deal with them all the time. You want to diminish them. You want to get rid of them. You want to stop them before they occur. So you might be asking, why? How do we do that? How can we be proactive in stopping these thoughts from coming? Because remember, when you have this fear of stuttering, what happens to you is it limits you. It limits your career. It limits your social life. It keeps you from doing the things that you want to do. So how can we be proactive? Are there things that we can do to better hijack, to better reframe? Are there audios that we can listen to? Yes. And so I want to share with you this way that you can do this, but this way is not for everyone. This way is not for everyone. So who is it for? This way is for those people who have a desire to do more and to be more. This way is for people who want to help others do and be more. This way is for people who want to establish realistic expectations and who's willing to work for as long as it takes, right? So this way is not for people that are looking for cures and short-term relief from stuttering. So that means the way that I'm about to share with you is not for someone. If you're watching this and you're looking for a cure, this is not the way. If you're looking for a short-term relief from stuttering, if that's all you're looking for is relief from stuttering, this is not the way. This way is for people who want to become excellent speakers. And it's a very, very different thing than becoming an excellent speaker and getting relief from stuttering. It's extremely different, right? You can have a person who doesn't stutter but's a terrible communicator, but you can have a person who struggled with stuttering and become an excellent communicator, excellent speaker. This that I'm about to share with you is for people who want to become excellent speakers. You want to become leaders. You know that you're capable of doing more. You want to do more. You want to be more. And listen to this. You want to help other people. And why is that so important? Why is it so important to help other people? Well, I'm going to share that with you in just a moment. I'm going to share that because that's a long-term strategy. So ultimately, our strategy is, our goal is, you want to get to the place where you're not thinking about speaking. You're not thinking about speaking. You're thinking about your career. You're thinking about your family. You're thinking about life. Just like you're walking. You're not thinking about walking. When you're brushing your teeth, you're just doing it naturally. That's where we want to get. And I can show you how to get there. So what is this way? This way is called the Pro 90D Speech System. And it's for those people that want to plug into something. They want to plug right in, and they want to get started quickly and immediately. They don't want to have to go out and research and figure out, well, let me find some audios and piecemeal some audios together, although you can, right? Or let me just think about, well, what are the thoughts that I need to think when I'm in this situation? And how often should I do these things? You want to be able to plug in and get started immediately. I have been working on this thing since 2009, right? Part-time 2009. From 2012 until today, 4 years, I've been working in this field, working with people that struggle with their speech. For 4 years, full-time. I have spent thousands of dollars, a couple of decades just in my own trial and error experience, right? Just a couple of decades, thousands of dollars in audios and all that kind of stuff in my own experiences. But then working with people one-on-one, I've spent at least 1,000 hours or more looking into the eyes of other people, right? Working with them, helping them. And so I can save you a lot of time and money because it's taken me years and a lot of money to come up with a system. And the system is progressive, right? It's progressive, where it's constantly getting better. What do I mean by progressive? It's constantly getting better, but I listen to my clients. I listen to my students. They say, well, this doesn't work. This is kind of confusing. Then I'm constantly looking for ways to make the system more efficient and more effective. So you need to have a systematic approach where you're consistently hijacking your thinking, reframing your training, replacing, listening to audios on a consistent basis. You need to have a system. So what I've done is just this past week, I've released the new Pro 90D 3.0, just this week. So it's not the Pro 90D 3.0 focus that you've seen, it's a new version. What's new about it? Well, I've taken input from clients and from students and reconfigured it so that what you now have in this new system is something that I call the fast action routine. Fast action routine. And that's very, very important because it's a template for what you need to do every day. All you have to do is get in, watch the video. I've written down the template, you plug in and you do it. That's it. The other version didn't quite have this. This one does. I had a guy who purchased the new Pro 90D. I got him into it this week. He just told me this morning, this is much better. It's much clearer than the other version, right? So it's better. It's almost like night and day. It's got some of the same content, but some new stuff. It's almost like night and day. Why is that important to you? You want to get over this fear of stuttering. You want to be able to speak smoothly and confidently. You want to get to the place where you're not thinking about the mechanics of speaking at all. You need a system. You need a system. You can take what I've given you today and what I gave you last week and create your own system. I'm a do-it-yourself guy, right? And it took me a long time, up until just 2 years ago. I'm just a do-it-yourself guy, right? I don't like coaching. I just don't like it. But 2 years ago, I got to a place in my life and business where in order to go further, I needed help. I couldn't go any further than where I was without getting assistance. Now, for years, I've been purchasing audios and programs and so forth. And so what I'm sharing with you now is such a system. And in that system, it's called the Fast Action Routine. It's right at the top. It's right at the top. If you go to the page, you'll see me talking about. There's a link that Myra or Sakshi can actually give you now. And you'll see this fast action routine. Boom, 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 itemize 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is what you do in the morning. This is what you do, and this is what you listen to, and this is what you practice, and this is how you practice. And there's a graphic that shows you how to practice, right? It tells you everything you need to do. Then in the second part, I have something called listen to these every day, or something like that. Listen to these every day, or listen to these daily, I believe is what it's called. Listen to these daily. And it's a series of audios already broken into. In fact, there's a folder in there that says, listen to these every day. And when you go into that folder, there's something that says day 1, day 2, all the way through day 7. And there's audios in there. And all you have to do is click, click, click every day and listen to those audios, and it will begin to reprogram your thinking. And what happens is you begin to think certain things. Okay, you can slow down. You don't have to rush. I am an excellent speaker. You begin to think it, and it diminishes this what? Fear of stuttering. Why? Because it's a systematic approach. You don't have to try to configure it and put it together and research and go out here and try this program and try that program. It's all packed into one. And it's progressive. It's not just something that I designed a few years ago and now it's just out there. No. When clients tell me, hey, this doesn't work or this works, boom, we're going to build it in. And if it's working for a lot of people, right, it's worked for me and it's working for them, guess what? And it's based on research and science, it's going to work for you too. Fast action routine, listen to these every day. You plug right in. It's inside of what's called a box at box.com, where you can look at it on your phone, you click, you can save it for offline, you can do all those things with these audios. And it's designed to get you into action, into a daily routine quickly, right? To get you to where you want to go. What else is in there? Supplementary. So all the stuff that's in the older program is there. So look at that like your personal coach. You want to go in there a few times a week, watch video, listen to audio, read transcript or whatever. And it's kind of like coaching. It's the best thing I could do to get you as close to one-on-one coaching as possible. But there's a couple of other things in there. There's something called Conquer Your Fear and Captivate Your Audience. This is for those of you that want to become excellent communicators, excellent presenters. And it walks you through how to anticipate your presentations. We all anticipate, right? We all anticipate an upcoming presentation. It's how you anticipate. Do you look at it as being an opportunity or do you fear it? That's going to determine how well you use. We talk about anticipating, talk about how you prepare, how you practice, and then I give you 12 things to do while you're presenting so that you don't have to use notes, you can engage your audience and so forth. It's all in there. And there's one final thing in there that I actually want you to watch first. It's the new Retrain Your Brain series. Again, scientifically based, proven, absolutely works. We talked about it last week, how to track your progress. I've included that in this program. It's not in the other program. It's all in here. All you got to do is just go in, plug into it, and just follow the routine every day, and you start experiencing results. In fact, with my coaching clients, I don't even have them watching the supplementary. That's most of the videos in the old program. I don't even have them watching that for at least the first month. They're just using this routine, and they're starting to see results in 1 week, and in 2 weeks, and in 3 weeks. They start feeling more confident. They start slowing themselves down just by using the routine, right? The other stuff just supplements it and builds the foundation. So who is this not for? Again, this is not for everybody. It's not for those of you that's just looking for relief from stuttering, who wants a cure. Not for you, not for you. If you're a professional or professionally minded and you want to become an excellent speaker, you want to take on greater leadership roles, you want to be able to speak up in meetings, you want to go back to school, you want to start your own business, you just want to feel free to just speak and do the things you want to do, this is for you. There's a second option. For those of you that have been doing this on your own, you've already been doing this and you've reached a plateau and you want to go further and you know you need help, then I want to offer you an opportunity to have a conversation with me to talk about private intensive coaching, right? This is not for everyone, right? If you don't know anything about the system, I want to encourage you to check out the self-study. Private intensive coaching is for those of you that you've been working, you know that you need accountability, right? It's the main thing my clients tell me, man, you know what? It's the accountability. So when you're working through this other stuff, you have to hold yourself accountable that every time I have these thoughts, I need to think this, I need to hijack this train of thinking. I need to listen to these audios. You have to hold yourself accountable. Otherwise, it's not going to work. It's just, oh, it's a great webinar, it's great steps, great keys. You got to hold yourself accountable. Evaluation and feedback. I've been studying people, right? I used to struggle myself. So I know I've been on the journey myself and I'm now helping other people. So I know what to look for. I can quickly tell you, work on this, focus on this. Evaluation and feedback. Encouragement. Everybody wants to give up. I give up sometimes, but you get back on track. I want you to check out this poem called Don't Quit. Great poem. Check it out. Everybody wants to quit, but when you have someone holding you accountable, giving you evaluation and feedback, and encouraging you to keep going, you're going to be far more likely to be successful than not. It's not for everyone. But if you feel like it's for you, if you want to become an excellent speaker and you want to change the lives of others. So remember I told you I was going to give you something that would help you have more of a long-term impact, to be more proactive. This is it right here. So listen, I'm just going to take a couple more minutes. It's 12 o'clock. I'm going to wrap it up right here. Here's what I want you to know. The people who do the best are those who have a calling, who feel called, who feel like it's their purpose to serve other people, to help other people, right? When you feel like, you know what, I want to use my speech to make the lives of others better. I want to use my speech to serve other people. When you have that focus, that calling, guess what? This will absolutely work for you. Why? Because what I've discovered is when you shift your focus, listen to this, this is kind of profound. When you shift your focus away from yourself to other people and you want to serve them and you want to help them and you want to use your speech to do it, you stop thinking about yourself and you stop thinking about what people are thinking about you and you stop thinking about, I hope I don't say, you start thinking about how can I communicate this as clearly as possible. There's a tip in there. That tip is when you're giving a presentation, when you're talking to someone like I'm doing now, think about how you want to communicate clearly to the other person. All this week I've been preparing for this webinar and I could have thought about, well, I hope I don't forget something. I hope, what are they going to think about me? But what did I think? I just thought about how do I want to impact them? How do I want to share this clear? I thought about you and how I wanted to impact you. Okay, so if I thought about myself and, oh, I wonder what they're thinking about, I wonder, say, oh, this guy's know he's talking about, oh, now he's trying to get us to do. If I start thinking about that, I would start messing up, right? I'd start getting stuck and stuttering. But I'm thinking about you. So long term, if you want to stop thinking about speech and you just want to get out there and speak and think about life, start focusing on how you can develop and use your speech to serve other people. And once you stay focused on that, your speech will dramatically and quickly begin to improve, okay? This system, it's called the new Pro 90D 3.0 Focus, is designed to help you do that quickly. How quickly? Who knows? I mean, some people, they start seeing dramatic results in several weeks. For other people, it takes longer. It all depends on how much effort you put into it. Do you plug into the system and do you follow? So here are the actions that I want you to take. Then I'm going to shoot over and begin to answer some questions. The actions I'd like for you to take. Number one, if this isn't for you, great. Take the information I've shared with you and put it into practice. Remember the question I asked you, what did you come here for, right? You didn't come here to be sold stuff. You came here to get some information to help you overcome your fear of stuttering. I gave you information, strategies that I have used, that I use, that other people use, that if you apply even just one of them, it will help you do that. So take at least one of them and take action on it. If you feel like you need a systematic approach, you want to plug into something, you don't want to figure it out, then you're going to want to check out the Pro 90D 3.0 Focus. And I'm going to give you a link. Myra and Sakshi will put up a link, and I'm going to email it to you, okay, to get into that. And there's a coupon, 24 hours. You're going to get, I believe it's 10% off, 10% off. So I haven't raised the price of this program from the last one, but it's better. I'm going to give you 10% off for those of you that are here for 24 hours. If you want to do that, you'll have a coupon. For those of you that know that you need greater accountability, I'm going to give you a link to review private intensive coaching details and then schedule an interview with me. Again, this is not going to work for everyone, right? I'll give you that link. For those of you that have stayed and haven't left, I'm going to give you a link to download the Relax session. Okay, so the actions I want you to take is take what you've learned and apply it immediately. You can't just apply it once. You have to keep applying it. Just like you're learning a language, you can't just learn it, go out and try it once and say, oh, that didn't work. You're going to keep doing it, right? So the same thing, go out and apply it. 2, for those of you that want to plug into a system and get going, click the link for the self-study. For those of you that want more, you want to work with me one-on-one, click the link for the interview. For those of you that have stayed and you're listening, click the link to get your download. Here's a little announcement, and then I'm going to shift over. We are starting a pilot project in India for Indian residents, and it will be priced accordingly, and it'll be a coaching program. And Sakshi is in training to become a certified Pro 90D speech coach, and she will be working with you, but I'll be working with you along with her for now, right? So you get quality service. She is about to get her master's in psychology. She is sharp. She's gone through the program, and she's an excellent speaker now. No one's perfect. I'm not perfect. I still get stuff. Excellent speaker. She knows her stuff. She's learning. She's going to be working with me to do this pilot project in India. If you're interested, send me or send us an email, okay? All right. With that said, thank you so much for being here. We're a few minutes over, but we officially don't end until 12:15, but I went 5 minutes over what I wanted. So I'm going to shift over and begin to answer some questions. Thank you so much for hanging in here with me. And I'm going to go over and switch videos and do some question and answer, okay? Give me just a moment.